to ya. It is Friday. TGIF. It's weird how, hey, Tibash. It is weird how it can actually feel like a Friday. It's so strange. It's, hey, Randy and Jay Jones and Meekum. Phil from Meekum, man behind it all. Just gonna wait for Cristy Lee to pop on here as well. It looks like she might be doing so. But I hope everyone is safe out there and healthy. Here she is. And TGIF. Yeah, I hope everyone out there is safe and healthy. I know that this is such a, hey girl, hey.
Hey! How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm right in the middle of tiling my bathroom floor right now.
Get it, girl. Get you some. Yes,
I
that's
got mortar everywhere, like a mess. But
you're so cute though.
I dress on the occasion, right?
I love it. Before we get started, I just was about to say to everybody who are out there, I know I've kind of started each of these, is just like anybody who's out there still working and still on the front lines and still preparing meals and pushing meals out and making masks and everything. Thank you, because here you are tiling and here I am sitting here drinking a spritzer here. So we cheers. Boom. Here's that.
Cheers.
But a big thanks to everyone who's out there right now doing so, because you and I are here on this Friday, and there's a lot of people who aren't. Do you have anything to say to them?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. It's like we kind of get wrapped up in what we've got going on in our home lives right now, since we're, kind of stuck at home. And it's really easy to forget all of the people who aren't able to be home and kind of still have to go about business as normal. So I'm definitely very, very appreciative of everybody that's out there, all the people that maybe weren't considered being on the front line before that are now, like drivers. And
Isn't that amazing, that shift for some of these people? I mean, like, I can't imagine. And what we've been talking about recently is that idea that, like, this is becoming our new normal. And for those people to just shift in 4 weeks, a completely, not different profession per se, but those who are like, they really are diving in deeper into something that they probably never thought they would be doing. Right?
Totally. I mean, it's like you look at, truck drivers, for example, they're used to being on the road, being busy, making deliveries. Right. I mean, right now, like, online deliveries are not only ramped up more than usual, but they're essential for a lot of things, because you can't go to the store and get some things that you might need. Right. And even if you do go to the store and run to the grocery store to grab something, God forbid you're looking for toilet paper.
Good luck.
It's probably not there. So you might need to use online shopping services in order to get that. So, I mean, I totally agree with you. Like, everybody that's out there right now, and especially anyone in the medical field in any capacity. And I'm not saying like that's to depreciate what doctors and nurses do, but pretty much anybody that's working in anything medical.
Those who are cleaning, those who are, I've seen some these men and women who are cleaning the hospitals, who are these people that, I don't want to say that anybody took them for granted, but like perhaps that position was taken for granted along the way. And thank you, right?
Yeah, totally. And as someone who was recently in the hospital, I can say, totally. Thank you for all that you do.
Dude, how was that experience? Like, minus the experience of what you went through, but like in regards to this whole situation and scenario.
As my beer like bubbles up on me. Hold on. Let me get this.
Yeah, we got this.
Okay, got it. Perfect. Now I just got to pop the top a little bit more. Okay, the beer is now dialed in and I'm ready to go. Crazy. Like, anytime you have to go to the emergency room, I feel like is a insane experience, no matter what it might be or how severe it may be. But right now, the thought of going to even a doctor's office is just insane, let alone the emergency room, let alone having surgery. I was so grateful to be out of the hospital very, very quickly in like record time.
When I saw your post, I was like, oh, first and foremost, I thought, oh, and then I thought, oh, what a terrible time to have an emergency in that way.
Yeah, not the best timing. Because everything at the hospital is like set up for this virus, and like they're just expecting 90% of the people that are going to be coming in are for the virus or to be tested or to be treated, whatever it might be, flu-like symptoms. You know, everybody's kind of at home. So, you know, there's been a decline in like traffic accidents and things like that. So it's not to say that people aren't going to need to go to the emergency room. It's just a little bit less than maybe usual. So yeah, you know, I walked into the ER and there's a line of people there getting, you know, coming in to get tested for COVID. And I'm like holding my sides, screaming in pain, like, help me.
That's what I was curious about. I was curious, like, how the priority, because this was like, what, 3 weeks ago enough, that it was at the kind of beginning of the whole situation. So I was kind of like curious, I mean, yeah, how that happened for you going into the emergency room, knowing that there's other people who were, that would have been wild. Yeah.
I mean, like normally, okay, so not that I have a ton of emergency room experience, but unfortunately I've had enough. You know, normally you go, right? Like, I wish I didn't, but I'm also glad I haven't had more.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Actually, the last time I went to the ER before this was for a bee sting because, surprise, anaphylactic.
Who knew? Who knew? It only until you know. I mean, what is it that you don't know until you know? And that's
you
one of
don't know.
I'm allergic to niacin. I had a full-on allergic reaction. That was the last time I was in there too. I chopped my toe off. That's another story. That might be another glass of something. And
that's nice too.
But okay, so for a bee sting, that was your last time in.
That was my last time in, which seemed like pretty softcore in comparison to like an emergency appendectomy, which is still like a very, I mean, I don't know, maybe I take things too casual, but it's still a very like routine surgery. It's super common. It's like, I mean, the surgeon was like, we're going to take your appendix. Like,
no big deal.
No big deal. I'm over here like, oh my God.
Isn't that amazing? Like, perspective check.
Yeah, you know, like snip, dice.
Right.
It's gone, you know, okay. So, I mean, you know, usually go in the ER and, you know, you're taken in by the level of pain, the severity, your condition. Yeah. That's kind of how they admit you in the ER. Not right now because COVID is a life-threatening virus. So it's kind of like, I hate to say first come, first serve, because that sounds like so desensitized to like the human population, but it's first come, first serve. Now, I'm sure if I came in there and like my arm was severed, it might be a little bit different, but you know,
that's your appendix or whatever.
Right. So I'm in there like hunched over, like holding my side, and I'm not the person that like curls up into a ball when I'm in pain. I'm the like, oh my God, this is insane. Like I'm screaming and pacing back and forth. And you're like, man, why don't you just like, you know, relax? And I'm like, relax. So there were two people in front of me, and this was like in the middle of the night. There were two people in front of me that were both coming in for the virus, to get tested for the virus. And I can't speak to the first person, but the person that was in front of me, which mind you was like 10 feet in front of me because it was all
that. Yeah.
I mean, she was like, cough, cough.
Oh.
I'm not feeling well. I need to be tested. And I'm over here like, woman?
You stay up there. You stay all the way up there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was, you know, it was crazy. And you could just tell, like, even 2 weeks ago, I mean, Monday or Tuesday will be 3 weeks, which is crazy. You could just tell, like, people in the hospital were just frazzled. They were tired. They were just overwhelmed. So, I mean.
So again, cheers to them.
Yes.
Still out there.
Cheers, big cheers to all of the people that are out there busting butt right now. Very grateful for that.
Right. No doubt about it. Okay, so people are asking you, how's your remodeling? Is this like a typical, like, when you're at home kind of a thing? Although, like, by the way, I also know, like, I travel a lot, and I know that this last year you were gnarly, so not that you could have ever done any of this last year, that your life was crazy. Is this, like, now you're like normal?
I'm like, 2020, let me cut back a little bit. You know, maybe just be home like a little bit more.
Refocus that target. What
does that look like? See my friends, like see my dog, like eat real food and not just like airport food. Yeah. And then like this thing happened and now I'm stuck home. So maybe just like a little like
more.
Right.
Where's that balance? That was
like a happy medium.
That was what I thought too here in 2020, and that kind of that step in, it was like, okay, I'm going to find that balance, that little work life, you know, combination. What does that look like? As much as I enjoy traveling, 250 to 80 days on the road is like, you know, it gets a little aggressive sometimes. And then like this hit, and it was like, I knew I was going to be home for a couple of weeks, but if we could, No, but the remodel, I haven't remodeled anything. I've been cooking a lot. But how's your remodel
Good.
going?
Good. It's going. Every time I kind of get into it, like the heap of a project like this, you kind of get to that point where you're like, why did it do this? Because every time I do this, I mean, I've remodeled like so much stuff over the years. I can't even.
Is this your house?
This is my house. Yeah. Okay. I'm the kind of person that doesn't buy a house that's like turnkey. I'm the person that's like, oh, look at this place. You can do this with it and this with it.
Totally.
Like,
that's what makes you good at your job too.
That's like, I mean, I love. I think it's just tools. Like, I think I just love working with tools.
Yeah, I would say that's probably a good thing for you.
Yeah, tools and power tools, like the grinder. I just got to use the grinder like 20 minutes ago. So I'm like shaping out like a round circle on a big square tile with the grinder. I'm like, this is awesome. I love this.
Isn't it so satisfying? Even if it's something so small where you're just sitting there like, I did that. And you're walking around and you're like, I did that and I put that. I mean, there's something so gratifying about doing it yourself.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. There is. And then in the end, you like look at your finished project. You're like, oh, it's so special because I did it. And
but then do you have an emotional attachment to it? Like that's then the problem. Like then I'm like emotionally attached to it. I'm like, oh, I can't get rid of that, or oh, I painted, or I mean, I'm a terrible painter, so like it's really not my like in fact, but you know, like that emotional attachment to it.
Totally. And then you like nitpick every like little tiny flaw, like every little itty bitty thing that's wrong. You're like, oh, I should have done that again. Should fix that. So, I mean, it's going, it's like a slow process. I think I was in like a flat spot for a few days. I just finished up drywall the other day, or maybe, day before yesterday. I'm a little slow, like posting on social media. So sorry. But like you finished drywall, like, wait, you mean everything you post on Instagram isn't in real time?
How about an Authentigram? Let's kick off an Authentigram sometime. I think that would be a very fascinating, instead of Instagram. Anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, I got drywall done, which is like, you know, drywall hell of sanding and then mudding and then sanding and then mudding. So I got that done, got the wall painted. It was like a flat spot for days. Now putting tile in today, you know, it's starting to look like a bathroom again, because before that it was just, you know, bare walls and cement board on the floor or subfloor. So it's just like, bleh. How long have you
had this place?
I've been in this house for about 4 or 5 years.
Okay, so this was a project coming.
This was like the next to last eyesore, basically. So like over the winter, redid the basement. So the basement was already finished, but it had just been like sad and neglected for a long time. So it just needed new flooring. But yeah, like a refresh. So that's done. New tiles, like that kind of stuff. So the basement got finished over the winter, and then the bathroom was like the last. It was so like 70s with the old vanity, the brown tile.
Let's take it. Is there a time in our life that the 70s, like my ex Tanner, he loved decor of the 70s, and it was one of those things that like I appreciate it, but is that going to come back? Do you think? I mean, we appreciate it at a different level from the classic car stuff, right? Like there's that angle, there's that angle of it. But like from the decor side, how much of that can we hold on to in hopes that in 10 years from now, will circle itself right back around?
Should we hold on to it? Like, or should we just like let go?
Let go. That's the question. And that's the question. That's what I'm wondering.
I don't know, like home, I feel like, I mean, cars are so like significant and classic. And I mean, when you have, obviously you have your like make model, like that's the year make model. That's never going to change. That was the styling. We can't change any of that now. It's in the past. So like there's that iconic look. And even in like a modern like resto mod or hot rod, it still kind of carries over. With home decor, it's like everything is just constantly changing. So it's like 1 week, you know, it's farmhouse modern, and the next week it's like mid-century modern. It's like, as long as you just put modern on something, that's like
it works. Style. It's like literally, Wait, so are you what's your modern? Are you angular? Are you very
I'm like modern, like generally modern, clean lines, lots of like simple stuff. I don't like a lot of like knickknackies and that kind of stuff around. And then
so like not like West Elm-y.
I do like West Elm. I actually have West Elm furniture. Like I like West Elm, but not too much like stuff on the shelves. Like I like the shelf, maybe a few less things. Yeah. So like West Elm, Crate and Barrel, like those kind of places is probably where I would shop. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I love me some IKEA, but let's be honest, that's everybody loves some IKEA.
You know what? Fun fact on IKEA, this, no joke. Okay, so this couch, it's a long story. The couches are really important to me. And I don't even sit on my couch, but it's just like knowing, like hardly because of our road. But like this couch, when I moved into this place, I was like, I'm going to get a nice couch. The couch that I had before was like a 14-person couch. It literally was such a big couch that we had. It had a guest book. Like that was the extreme. So when I moved
in to sit.
Dude, that's what it was. It so was. And the guest book is like that. I think it has to exist. Anyways, so when I got this, when I moved in here, I was like, I'm gonna get a nice couch. That's something that I'm gonna spend a little bit of money on, right? And it didn't come in for weeks and weeks, and so finally I went to IKEA and I was like, I'll just get a couch to like patch it for a bit. And they were so great because when this couch came in, I called IKEA and I was like, look, I've used this couch for like 5 weeks. Like, I have used it, yes, but, like, can you return it? And they're like, 365-day policy. If you can get it to us, we'll return it as long as it looks relatively new. And I was like, cool.
That's pretty sweet.
Not only is IKEA fun for the DIY side of that, but, like, not a bad return policy.
No, and this right here, this is the IKEA couch right here.
Also, fun fact, IKEA has really good, of course, we all know that they have good, like, the meatballs and, like, food and all that. But they also,
I've never eaten there. I don't think I've ever eaten at IKEA before. You know, I've heard people say, like, let's go do lunch at IKEA. And I'm like, okay, don't you just go buy, like, stuff for your kitchen at IKEA? I didn't know that was, like, a thing, but apparently it is.
The meatballs are a real deal there. The meatballs are, yeah. But they also have, like, really good, this is going to sound super strange, but they have really good, like, gummies. Like actual, like, you know, gummy bears. Yeah.
Ooh.
Anyways, side note.
I'll have to try that. IKEA candy. I like it. Ooh, the cinnamon rolls. I've definitely had one of those before. Because you can only pass by the, like, fresh baked cinnamon rolls at the cash register so many times if you're like, I'm just going to have to buy one of those.
Are you one of those people, like, in the airports when we have what Auntie Anne's? Are you an Auntie Anne?
Oh, you know what? I mean, I love that stuff. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, I think you can feel my pain with this. Like, on the road, I try to stay away from all things bad. Because it's like, it's such a slippery slope because you're just like, I'll just have this one bad thing today. And then it's like, well, wait, I'm on the road again tomorrow. And then you get towards the end of your road trip and your willpower is pathetic.
And there's no way of catching up at that point. Like, at that point, you're done, though.
Yeah. And then set food. Okay, let's talk about set food, like craft services.
I'm so glad you understand this. Yeah. So,
like,
not a lot of people do.
It's a blessing and a curse because you love when you have someone that's like on point with craft services and they have like the best of all the snacks. And then you also hate them.
That's true. That is true. Okay, so for
like,
people
why
that
do you have
know,
to buy?
On set, you get a really okay. On set, there's 2 productions, and I swear by this. Production value is based on your craft services. You know how good or small a budget is in a production, depending on your food spread, and if it's do you know what I mean? So like for those who aren't on set, like you could have magnificent, like, right? Smoothies, like fresh food, like sushis, like things that are like, and then you could have carry out, nothing against it.
Yeah.
Very different experience.
Totally. Or you have like, when you like roll up, I mean, like, you know, when you have the same kind of ongoing gigs, you know what to expect and you know, like where they're going to get food from. You kind of, you know the deal, but it's like, kind of that like, you know, unsureness of going onto a new set or a new game. You're like, what's the table going to be?
What's going to be the food? Yeah.
And you roll up and it goes either way, right? Because you roll up and you see like Costco boxes of like Doritos and chips and you're like,
dang it! Yeah.
Or you roll up and you see like 2 people that are just devoted to the craft food table and they're just like walking around with the tray all day. Like, would you like some of this delicious strawberry smoothie to sample? Like, yes.
Yes. And that is where we get into trouble because it's like that same thing because it is a slippery slope for people who are in that industry because it is a grind. I think this is something that a lot of people that maybe don't know about our world too is like, and this is what I find even on social media, and sometimes I'm terrible. I mean, you and I've talked about this. Like, I'm terrible at social media, like, responses and engagement. And that's part of the most challenging part of the job. And that's partly because, like, when you're on set or when you're working from a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on a show, for instance, I mean, Barrett's hours are incredibly long. Same with Meekum's, for instance.
Same thing.
For instance, you know, and you sit there and you're like, after a day, like just having to like, that frame of mind to be able to then be engaged on a social standpoint, you don't really have time. So same with food, like the workout thing on the road, like you eat all day, you have no time to do anything besides go to sleep and do it again. So it's an interesting combination for sure.
Totally. And I think what a lot of people don't maybe understand about our industry specifically is that, like, not only are you traveling, so you're physically traveling, so it's physically exhausting, but like the mental exhaustion that comes along with it. Like, I always tell people it's like being on. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I love what I do, and it sounds like you do too. So I wouldn't trade for the world, but it is mentally tiring because you're just on constantly. So you're on when you're on camera, you're on when you're talking to people, you're on when you're working with your production crew.
Yep.
And then it's like you get back to your room, your hotel, whatever it may be, and you're just like, I'm dead. Like,
I'm dead.
Last thing I'm going to do right now is go run on the treadmill. Like,
I had this conversation. I was dating this guy recently, and we had this like ongoing conversation about this idea of like, I want to be social, but like when you come home from an event, like it's almost like a 24-hour reset of like, oh, I'm back to my like normal operating individual self. But it takes a moment to like get to that point that like going right away and going out, that engagement part is an interesting part of what our world is. But again, I don't think either one of us would trade in any capacity. Can you imagine? Totally. I've got a 9 to 5 twice. I designed men's underwear. It's a long story. And that is true. And I worked in an office with Global Rallycross. You might remember way back when.
Yeah. That was like 100 moons ago.
Right? Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I can't imagine being in a different industry or I'm that person. I'm so grateful for what we did, for our opportunity of life, of our job.
Totally. And I'm with you. I've done the office thing. I mean, I've been like my own business owner I've had so many different jobs. Like, I won't even regale you with all of them, but like actually being like in an office doing the like 9 to 5 jam. I mean, I've only honestly done that like once ever. And I worked in an insurance office, and I was like, this is going to be the greatest career ever. Yeah. And I was like,
I got stability.
Yes. I was working in a restaurant at the time, like as a waitress, like in fine dining. So like, I mean, like,
you probably would have been a good waitress though, from the service and the engagement standpoint.
Totally. Like, I waited tables for a long time. So like, I loved it. It was like great money, and like, yes, it was engagement with people, but like that was a huge jump for me to go from like a really like potentially inconsistent job industry specifically, and inconsistent money at that, with waiting tables. Some nights you make bank, and then some weeks you're just like, to go to like a salary job in an office with bennies and like getting dressed up every day and like little bit.
Dude, the dress up thing was interesting. Like, I've joked already in this quarantine doing these chats, and I like put makeup on my face, and like I'm like, what like that's a work day. When I have makeup on my face, that's a work day. But like I can't. And you're right, getting dressed up in real people clothes, and you know, it's just a different approach to it.
Oh yeah, totally. Like it was like my adult job. Like, I was in my early 20s, but I was like, now I'm an adult and I have a career. It lasted like 9 months.
Yeah. Mine was about that length too.
Yeah, because after 9 months, like I was at the front desk. So I was like, I mean, for a lack of better ways to say it, like I was a glorified secretary, and I was at the front desk, and I mean, I was technically an executive assistant, but whatever.
Sure.
The most exciting part of my day was who was getting out of the elevator, because there were glass doors. So like you really need to reconsider your current life path when you're just like at your desk and you're like, you hear the elevator ding.
Oh, girl. This was my New York. That was literally my New York life. That was same thing, glorified executive assistant, if you will, at one point. And what a funny, I haven't thought about that in so long, but you're right. The elevator doors and the catering, lunch catering. What were we going to have for lunch catering? That was always a big deal when I was working in corporate. Anyway.
Yes, and I became like it all made sense after I was at that office for 3 months. I was like, so weird that I was a waitress at a restaurant, and this guy that I waited on was like, I want to hire you to work in my office. And then like 3 months later, I ended up working in his office, and I basically become a waitress there. So like I was basically ordering all of the luncheons. They had, oh my gosh, luncheons on luncheons on luncheons. I was like, how many more people can y'all invite from this building to eat lunch? But then it was like, order the food, and then what type of food, and then the exception to this order, and this person likes this and doesn't like this. And then I'd set the whole table up, and then serve all the food, and then clean the whole table afterwards, and then do it again the next day. And I'm like, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Did I get any of that food?
Like, I was basically being a waitress at this place, but I had to dress up, and I didn't make cash.
Yeah. Okay, so then the takeaway of that is there, what did you learn during that point, other than just like exposing yourself to say like, look, this isn't what I want to do, but how have you seen that translate into what you're doing now?
I learned that job that I'm not a like fit into a mold type of person. And that was kind of the same thing that I learned when I went to college, honestly. And I mean, not to knock anybody that goes to college. It is like a very, very like prestigious thing, especially if you go through like, you know, extensive collegiate education.
Right.
But it wasn't for me. I wasn't like a fit in the mold person. So I was like, that's what I learned from that insurance job was like, okay, this is not me. Like, I need to do my own thing, and I need to find a way to do the things that I like doing, the things I'm really good at, and like spin them into something. And then I somehow landed here.
I remember that. I had that 2014, and I remember I was in Santa Monica, I was living in LA area, and I remember looking in the mirror, I was having this conversation, and I remember being like, I'm struggling because I feel like I wasn't like everybody else. Like that idea where it was like, I feel like I want to be able to work, and this was right after GRC. I want to work in an office, and I want to have that stability. I want to be able, and like, I was like, but I'm not. And like, I'm one of those people that like, if I go to yoga at 10 in the morning, whatever, just spitballing, right? And I remember being like, I felt guilty about doing that when I would work before and after that. But like the idea that like I wasn't fitting in I remember specifically when I had that conversation in 2014, just like having that coming to Jesus where it was like, look, like it's okay that I'm not wired to be like everybody else. And like that was that's a hard realization to get to.
Totally. And it's like, you kind of have to have that, like you said, that moment with yourself where, you know, it's like, okay, this is what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing, but maybe that doesn't mean that I have to do it like everybody else does. Right. But so wait, we have to talk about how we both work in this crazy industry, right? Yet we've only actually ever met
like once. One time. That's it.
Yet I feel like I know you.
Isn't that weird? It's so weird to me too. I can't believe it. Even that one time, what was Covercraft over at SEMA? Was it Cover? You had the longest line.
SEMA, and all nothing that happens in SEMA counts.
Literally black out for 5 days.
Right. It's like, yeah, people are like, do you remember that one time I met you at SEMA? I'm like, yeah, totally. It's great. Super memorable.
It's so difficult. It's like 5 days of blacking out of just like, you know, it's such a wild, it's an amazing experience because there's so many people that don't get a chance to experience it, but it's such a wild experience in the moment because it is so many of your friends, community, industry friends and family, and it's just, wow. But you and I only met one time. And you had the longest line.
I feel like it was definitely at Covercraft, but I also feel like, did we not like meet in passing at some point? Was it at Covercraft that we met? SEMA?
I do love me some Covercraft, but no,
me too. They're so great. I love them.
So wonderful. But I don't know. I just remember it was either right before you were doing you had a line, or you had just finished. You had just finished an autograph session, maybe.
And you're like, get out of the way. I gotta be here.
I just want to say hi to you. That's really what it was. I was like, I feel like I know you, and I just want to say hi to you, and I feel like our lives have gone like this in the industry in a completely. We've taken I think we've made our own, but it's been so similar, even to the point where like you covered pork,
oh my god,
you covered off-road racing, and I came in after you with off-road stuff. So like our worlds have just like it was wild.
So it's like because like a lot of people just do like the hosting thing. So like I always kind of tell people like there's like people that do like reality hosting, and then there's like TV people. So there's like, you know, career TV people. Like I work with a few, and I would describe you as like a TV person. Like you're going to do TV stuff, whatever that looks like. Right. You know, and there's not a lot of, especially women that are like, you know what I mean? Like multifaceted within the television world where they do.
But you're the same way.
And
you're
reporting.
The same way.
Right.
You're the same way.
Like, I've had so many people be like, do you know Katie?
Well, because
do.
Here's the thing. The amount of times I've been called Cristy is insane. And that's not just because, I mean, you have, I mean, what you do and how you've created yourself in this industry is pretty amazing. I mean, it truly is. And I want to talk about this from a different perspective and like the youth side and how you've influenced young women. There's somebody who just said, it's a dad who said he's watching with his daughter. And so hello to them.
I love that.
Hello from Brazil and Italy and Calgary. Hello. Thank you for joining us, everybody. But, you know, I think what I've really admired about you is the multifaceted, like you're saying, but you're a TV person, right? But you have the skill to back that up. And you're authentically, I think the word sincere and genuine, I'm trying to use a little bit even more so than authentic. I think you have shown some sincerity and how genuine that is across, but it's true. But it's true. And I'm not, but not everybody you could say that to, right? Like it is a difference.
Totally.
And because you have done so many things from, I mean, you have the classic cars, you have the wrenching side, and you have the motorsport side, right? Whether it be two-wheel or four-wheel. And I think across the board, that just is really, really cool because not everybody is that way, right?
Yeah. And I mean, you got to give yourself some credit too, because you've managed to cross over, because you can speak to it as much as I can, that the reporting side of TV, like it's not even just as a woman, just like in general, like as a hit reporter. Yeah. And like the industry of hosting, like those are two, like those are totally different worlds.
And especially with the development of social media and what that has brought to the table for a lot of hosts, a lot of great influencers, but different than journalistic hit reporting, hosting across the board.
And see, even I think like the social media side of things is also like completely different, because
skill set.
Yeah, like you go way back too, like where I go way back, where it's like, I mean, I remember a time where we were like writing, you had to write stories, like you had to like it was broadcast journalism, and like that's how I started out.
Did you go to school for journalism?
I didn't, because remember, I don't do school.
You said that earlier. I didn't know that was okay. All right, officially,
I didn't. But like I was in, not to like go like my whole like life story, because we don't need to go.
No, I'm curious about your life story.
I did a lot of like acting and theater and drama when I was younger, and I grew up in Central Florida, which is like Disney, right? Disney.
Right.
Did
you do anything with Disney?
Yeah, Disney. Like I tried to do like the Disney thing, like acting. Like that's what I wanted to do as like a child. It was be a child actress. And I mean, you want to talk about like a cutthroat industry?
Yep. Right.
So like I shot my first pilot when I was like 10 years old for Disney.
That's wild. That's wild.
And they didn't take me. So I went and shot this pilot. We went to the Stanford Zoo. Okay. I went to Disney and auditioned to like the Disney, like cast members, Disney Studios, which is a big deal. So like I went there, I did like a live audition with like a bunch of executives. I mean,
when you're 10.
I'm a kid. I was like 10, maybe 11. I may have even been 9, to be perfectly honest. I was young. So like I go to do this casting, and it was like a show about animals. And, you know, one of the things they wanted to know was like, are you good with animals? So like I do this like live interview with them, you know, in person, and they bring like a snake in, like a boa.
Of course.
And they're like, here we go. Here's the snake. Like, are you okay with animals? I'm like, I guess I have to be. And then we went and shot like this whole pilot show at the zoo, and I worked with this guy, was my co-host. And then like, I'll never forget, I got this voicemail, because this was the time of like no cell phones.
Yeah.
So you leave, you know, like you leave a message on the answering machine, and you come home.
You just said that like your phones are so archaic.
It feels so old though. Like think about like an answering machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that is so old.
It is old. It's super old school. That's funny. Yeah. Anyway,
So,
on the answering machine.
Wait, I'm dating myself. I should have said, like, I was 19 when I had an answering machine, not, like...
Right. Yeah. Cheers to that. With age comes wisdom. Or at least that's what
something like that. But yeah, I came home and then there's a message on the answering machine of like, sorry, we decided to go in a different direction. We wanted to cast someone that looked a little bit older, blah, blah, blah. And that was like, that was crushing for me because to me, I looked at it like, you know, even if I try my very best and try to be the best person that I could be, it didn't matter because it wasn't based on my performance. It was based on how I looked and I couldn't change that. So like that was when I was like, nope, can't do this. I'm out. Mm-hmm. And then for years I didn't do anything with television. And then I started getting back into like, How did you
dive back in then?
I was in dance. Like I did dance for like years.
What dance?
All kinds of dance. Like I was never very good at ballet. So like, you know, I was terrible. Mostly like jazz and hip hop, like ballet.
I did jazz and tap.
Did you? Oh, tap, girl.
So good. 9 years of it. So good.
So me and tap, not friends. Me and ballet, also not friends because I have double jointed elbows and double jointed.
I have field goals for my arms.
Wait,
no joke. Wait, are you kidding me? I've never met somebody else who does.
Wait, so that means you can do the thing. Like when you put, I always show people this, when you put your arms and you go like this.
Yes. Hold on. No joke. Yes. I have that. They're literally field goals.
That's like the curse of a dancer, though, is the double jointed elbows and knees.
That makes me so happy. I've never met anybody else who has that.
So, like, I don't know if you ever did like cheer or pom, but I always got razzed so hard.
I bet you did.
Because like if you hyperextend your elbow, like your arm would bend, and your coach was like, "Don't do it."
Seriously, I was a swimmer, so it was really good for like backstroke. Like I had double jointed, but definitely, I mean, yoga, it's terrible for yoga because they're like, oh, keep your arms straight. I'm like, they are straight.
Like, I swear they're straight.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. You know
so mixed with the double jointed I call them janky elbows. Mixed with the janky elbows, I also have zero turnout in my hips for ballet. So like when if I was to like lie on the floor, like my hips won't even go flat. So ballet was not happening for me.
Wow. Is that like the way you would shift her? Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Like if you were to lay, basically to like you could check the natural turnout. I mean, you can gain flexibility, of course, but the natural turnout in your hips, your hip flexors, like we lay on your stomach. I mean, I can't do it right now. You can lay on your stomach and like press your legs like out. And then you basically would see if your feet, like how far your feet go down to touch the floor in like a diamond shape. My feet are like all the way up. So like I'm not even close.
Wow, that's wild. What a fun fact.
Yeah, no ballet for me. So I mean, long story short, I did the dance thing. So I was like, let me just try to get into entertainment. And then I like was just basically looking for any job that I could find. And I mean, I was living in Detroit doing real estate at the time, flipping houses.
Was your family, so how'd you go from Florida to Detroit? What was that?
To flip houses.
It was actually well, why Detroit? I mean, I guess at that time, probably Detroit was, I mean, still is. It's such a, Detroit.
Yeah, at the time, I mean, that was 2005. So at the time, there was just an abundance of, I mean, this was specific to Detroit, not Metro Detroit. There was just an abundance of vacant houses that were just begging to be renovated. And there were the people that wanted to live in them, but just nobody had the money, the time, the effort to renovate them and move in. So you could buy up a house for, I mean, I'm not kidding, like pennies, nothing.
Wow.
And then, dump 5 figures in it, maybe even just like 10 grand in it to get it like, up to code and livable.
Right.
And, people move in and buy the house for like, 3 times what you paid for it. And that's all profit. So like, that's what I did. And it was great until it wasn't.
Wait, what happened?
Well, I mean, the economy kind of, take it up. That kind of killed my business because it was hard for, pretty much nobody could get like a mortgage. No one could get loans. Banks weren't making any money. So I was kind of looking for other things. And at the time, like I said, I was doing the dance thing. Like I was an NBA cheerleader and all that stuff.
Wait, what team are you? What is this world?
Actually.
Hey, were you really?
That's my old hoodie. Oh
So fantastic. I'm so getting to know you. This is wonderful.
Yeah. So OG, like NBA dancer. I danced for the major indoor soccer league as well. Like we had a dance team here in
my jazz and tap literally was performance at the local performance center.
I love it.
Very different levels of dance that you and I had.
Totally different levels, but like super respectable either way because like I love dance. So
yeah, it is. That's amazing. Okay, so you went that route. Okay,
I did. And I'm sure if I tried to do any of that stuff now, I think my ankles would probably snap, but like my knee would just give out.
What do we say, with age comes wisdom? Is that right? It doesn't necessarily mean other
something like that. With age comes like achy joints. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I was doing the dance thing and, I wasn't finding anything, and you're going to laugh. Like, I can't believe I'm going to admit this on like live Instagram. But, okay. So do you remember the show on, I think it was like MTV, Making the Band with Puff Daddy?
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. So I was like fresh off my like NBA cheerleading, dance team gig. And I'm like, yeah, there was like terrible money. Like it's terrible money. I think I was getting paid like $50 a game. Like I'm not kidding.
I believe it.
And that was NBA standard at the time, which was, I mean, you can't live off that. So I had several other jobs. Right. But I'm like, man, I want to make some money in this industry. I can't afford to move to New York or Los Angeles. So like, I'm going to do this Making the Band thing. And like P. Diddy isn't even going to know what hit him.
My gosh.
They had auditions in Detroit. I did not go.
Wait, you didn't?
I did not. No, I did not. But 2 weeks later, a local radio station called 101 The Riff, which is rock radio, they were having a contest for basically a riff rock girl thing, which was like a spokesperson for the radio station for like a year. It was a salary job and you get to be on air every day, all this. So that was like 2 weeks after the Making the Band thing. I'm like, dude, I love rock music. I'm like, I can talk on a microphone every day. Like, I can do this. Yeah. So I went in, auditioned. It was like a month-long contest, and I won.
What? And that was really the start. That was like the start back into this entertainment side.
Yes. Yep. And then I worked in radio I stayed at the station for 4 years. Okay. I learned so much. And I mean, that's like where that's where I really started in broadcasting. So like I've always said, like I've worked, I don't want to say from the bottom up because that totally
but like actually,
it like discredits radio. But like, I mean, I started out I won the rock girl thing. That was a 1 year gig. And then after the 1 year, like our program director at the radio station, he was like, like you're gonna do the graveyard shift like everybody else.
Everyone else has to. Yep.
And I worked Monday mornings from 12:30 a.m. to 5:30 a.m. every Monday, and that was my air shift, and it sucked.
No sleep. I can't imagine. I know like some of the women that I see that I know that are in local news, right? And they're in the team no sleep, time frame, and it's just so admirable. At what point in that time though are you sitting there thinking this is gonna pay off? This is gonna pay off. Like, was that your motivation at that point? Did you know that like you had these like incremental goals?
Yeah, I mean, I did the radio thing, and like, I mean, I don't think I'm that great at anything, but like everybody told me like you're pretty good at this. You should probably do this. I'm like, okay. So like I had done some video work for the radio station in the time that I was there, and I was like, I really like this radio thing, but they have that whole saying like a face for radio, and I kind of feel like I have the opposite of a face for radio. So I'm like, maybe I should channel that to on-camera work instead of in the microphone. So I'm like, maybe let me try to do this like on-camera thing. And I mean, I started out like my on-camera gigs were like grassroots as all grassroots.
Oh, I get it, girl. Those $25 a day jobs, like that's just as long as
you got paid.
Hardly. And that was like pulling strings to get $25 a day job.
How about the ones where you like brought your own camera, you set up your own thing, and then like you paid your own admission to get into the event?
Right? Oh, it was a $10 ticket. But man, I got some good behind the scenes thing on my little flip vid. I'll show you all on social media. Like, yep.
Oh my God, I love it. Yep.
That's it.
Totally. So you know exactly what that's like. I mean, I covered like some skateboarding stuff in like a parking lot, and like, I mean, I'm dead serious. Like, I was just like, I just need, like, at that time, now with social media, it's totally different. But like at that time, like having a reel, remember, like a demo reel?
I mean, still, that's the demise of, I mean, anybody who has lived with me knows the demise of putting together a reel, and the idea of like, that's your portfolio that you have to share. And like, I came from the athlete side and journalist. So I studied sports broadcasting, and this was before digital was digital, of course, too. And like that idea, I mean, it was before digital existed, right? And you sit there and you're just like, yeah, it was ridiculous. Such different days now. But you sit there and the idea of the reel, and like the pressure that you feel like this is the only way that you're going to strike. They're going to like you within the first 20 seconds or not. Like that, the pressure of what that means for somebody, and knowing how hard you work, right? Like you're grinding your way through those $25 a day or not at all paid jobs, you know, and the importance of those early reels where you're just like, I just want someone to take a shot on me.
Oh yeah. And like, remember begging for footage?
Oh yeah.
Remember those days of like hunting people down? Like, I remember befriending people that worked in like the AV room at events and stuff, or like that worked like,
oh, for sure,
like
right?
in the trailer or whatever it was.
Cookies, if you just give me the tape,
I'll literally do anything for you. Just give me this like one clip.
just one time me saying what network I'm on, whatever it is, right?
Yep. And then like stealing stuff off YouTube too, like just like whatever you could do to like pirate video content to get it on a demo reel, and then like meeting with like whomever you knew, like, because at the time, like, I was not proficient at editing video, and there was
now your editing skills are bomb, just so you know.
My Photoshop skills,
your Photoshop skills are pretty darn good. I'll let anyone tell you otherwise. About that.
I mean, but like now there's like all these apps for editing. There's like tons of stuff, right? But I mean, back then it was, you basically had to pay an editor, like somebody that had, you know, like reasonable editing software.
Avid or whatever it was at that time.
And it's just like, I mean, oh my gosh, and you'd meet up with somebody and like give them all these clips and this music and like have them create this amazing thing, and then they'd send it back to you and you're like, this is what I paid for.
And then you're so hard. I mean, this is like, it's so true. This idea that you're then hard on yourself, and like you're like, I feel like I did it better. I look better in that clip, and I sound better in that one. And like that whole, it is a tough. But when you sit there and you look back at it, like when you're examining the food in production and craft services, and you're sitting there thinking, I finally made it to a point where there's craft services. Like that kind of what you went through, and I know my journey too, and my one way ticket to New York and designing men's underwear and $25 a day jobs, and that journey into like that role. Oh gosh, but like that journey into that role, where that's why the gratefulness, I think, is such a game changer in our world, because like, I mean, maybe you would have changed some of that graveyard shift or whatever. That's gnarly.
I wouldn't though, because it made me who I am now. And like, as much as that was a really difficult air shift, like, let me tell you, when I actually quit at the radio station, I mean, that was one of the hardest things, honestly, in my career I've ever done. Like, I cried and cried, because it was such like a, you know, it was my first like gig. It was such a significant job to me. I loved the people there so much. It was so hard to leave that. And I mean, that's not to say that it's like easy to just walk away from anything now, but like that was a hard one for me. And you know, that's made me who I am today. And it's made me appreciate things like not having to create a demo reel for new job opportunities. It's like now that you become, you know how this is, you become more established. People know who you are. You don't have to send that. Like, I think I had somebody email me sometime last year, and they're like, oh, can you send over a demo reel? I was like, I'm sorry, a what? I said, what'd you say? A what?
You know, and I Colin just jumped in there. I think our craft services are fine. We have bananas and Famous Amos cookies sometimes on that one. But you know, I think that there's something to be said. I was talking to, was it Jared the other day, and I think this is an interesting shift that people get into. It's like being your own ice cream flavor. You're talking about the fact that you've made a point in your career where you aren't necessarily having to do your reel anymore, right? You've established yourself, you've worked your butt off to get to the point that you are. You know your value that you add to a show, right? So it's less now about the other blonde-haired person that can talk on camera anymore. It's what's value that you're actually providing other people, and you're confident in that. But when did that shift come? Because that's something that over time I think a lot of people have to learn. And I know that I personally have thankfully wrapped my head around that, but it took a long time. It took a long time.
Yeah. And I mean, I think nowadays with television and like what we're talking about with people being like career TV people, like this is what I'm always going to do. So like, if I don't have a show on one network, like I'm going to do other shows with other networks. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like this is what I do. I make TV. Like I love it. So like, that's just kind of like in my blood. But I mean, now, like nowadays with reality TV being so popular and pretty much the only style of television you see from like hosting perspective.
Yeah.
You know, there's like overnight TV stars. And I think a lot of these people, and I mean, it's not to like discredit anybody. It's totally not that. But I think a lot of people have, you know, this opportunity handed to them on a silver platter. And they kind of expect that that's how all of it goes. And it's for the rest of us, it's not that way.
Well, I think there's something to be said, and it's a hard lesson. So the lessons that you and I learned maybe earlier on in our career in a different way, some of those lessons that maybe they're learning are set etiquette, right? Like, how do you operate on set? It's not me filming my own camera. I mean, you know, sitting in my house taking a photo of me lifting weights or whatever, which I did today. By the way. But like, it's not just, you know, it's not just taking a photo of you in that position, right? But there's set etiquette that goes along with that. That's interaction with the audio in a grip work, you know, people on production, those who are making this production come to life, which is a different kind of approach, I think. And it's not to say it's good or bad. It's just they will learn that too. Just like you and I had to learn those things early on in a different way. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but because we've started from essentially what you could say the ground up, you have a greater appreciation for all of those things where you're not being, you know, presented with like this perfect set with the perfect craft food services and all these great things.
We have literally been in the middle of short tracks in off-road racing with no audio, trying to broadcast a show. Trying to be a commentator.
Oh, the horror stories of like just all of the things happening. Yeah. I mean, like I've done like TV broadcast stuff before where like the only headset that I had was like my iPhone earpods. And you're like, really? This is happening right now? Like this is what we've got to work with.
Yeah. Yep.
All right,
okay.
let's do it.
Yep, game on, let's do it. And but I think like that's where you can then appreciate when you actually have things that are set up, you know, but you get it. I mean, because you did that. You have done that as well. I know people are asking, what's your favorite car?
What's my favorite car? See, I'm so not a favorites person. I'm like, why do you have to have one favorite when you can just love like lots of things?
Big heart.
That's
just
me.
Big heart.
That's like the type of person I am. Like, I don't think I have like a favorite anything. Like, I don't have a favorite food. I don't have a favorite color. I don't have a favorite movie. I like.
You don't have a favorite color?
No, not really. Like, they're just colors. I mean, but I have certain colors that I like for certain things. So like, if there's like favorite color for like house decor, if there's a favorite color for a car, if there's a favorite color for clothing, like, I mean, I have like, I don't know, like lots of different favorites. Food is the same thing. Like I have like, well, like so what type of favorite food?
Yeah, I have so many favorite foods. Yeah, that's a hard one.
Yeah, I have lots of favorite foods as well because let's be honest, food's amazing. And favorite car, I mean, I have a lot of cars that I really like, and I'm not that person that's like, I like this one thing and that's all I like. I'm like, I like this and this and this and this and this.
And the reasoning why and the motivations why you actually like them too, right? Each of those are different. across the board.
Totally. And then there's like new old styles. Like, I mean, one of the cars that I really love happens to be like a 1969 Mustang. Do I like the new gen Mustangs? Not necessarily my thing. So like, but I like that.
Yeah.
So it's
well, and there's always a reason for it, right? And that's one of the things that you and I get in the auctions, and that I love. And honestly, what I think too is how we've carved out our own in our own industries, even paralleling one another in different ways, is that the reasonings I choose, or I pick something as I like quirky and unique and different in the story about it, where you're coming from that more wrench and in that hardcore version of what that really represents as well, which I think is super cool. I love it. I love it. But I mean, it's true because you bring that to the table, and that's a value you have, is that you are an under the hood. You want to know, you want to get in there, and that's super cool to me. But for each reason why you're picking a Mustang, which is different than maybe something, you know, nowadays, that it's going to be a completely different reason why you're picking that than what makes sense to me. And I think that's another cool element, you know, kind of as we're both out there together.
Totally. And I love that we literally do like the same job, but for two completely opposite auction houses. Like,
literally
the same thing.
Literally the same thing. That's why I joke that like literally our lives paralleled one another, from auctions to a build show to, although I wasn't wrenching, you know, the Power Nation All Girls Garage, and then, you know, and then I'm more four-wheel, you're more two-wheel. Like, it's just, that's just like from a race coverage.
The torque thing made it like just like a little too weird. Like, wait a minute. Like,
I mean, we worked with even some of the same production people there. That's wild. Okay, real quick too, because I think Instagram cuts us off, which I feel like we need a part 2 on this. Is the idea about women and youth, but also women in the industry. What advice do you have for youth trying to keep the passion of classic cars alive? Which I think is an interesting place right now, because you and I have our own reasons why we both enjoy classic cars. But how is it that can be for the youth to understand what that's really all about?
Yeah, I mean, I think like we're on the kind of cusp of like what was the last little bit of people like really appreciating classic cars, and that being like a big part of their upbringing. I mean, obviously the generations prior to us, like that was their upbringing. They lived, eat, and breathed those vehicles. Like they remember those cars coming out because they lived through it. So it's a little bit more of an afterthought for us, but it's like an afterthought for like the newer youth generation. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing that like can excite younger people to be involved in the automotive industry and the classic car scene, especially, is their family like staying involved with it. So like dad and grandpa and even like mom, and you know what I mean? Like them being involved with it. And that's what's going to excite the younger generation about things. Totally. And I mean, I had this conversation with someone the other day with all that's going on in the world right now, with this whole crazy pandemic, and what an interesting switch that is from, you know, what everyone thinks are essential jobs to like what we're all really seeing is an essential job now. And I mean, automotive and the trades industry, that has become essential, and it will continue to be. So maybe for the younger generation, maybe for the younger generation, this whole thing is more of a like enlightening experience of what really is essential.
What a light at the end of the tunnel on that one. What a positive thought, because you're right. I think in the overall media is experiencing how this is like can be detrimental to a certain degree. But what a cool point that some of these lost art forms, if you will, I've always said that like woodworking is a lost art form in the automotive industry. And like how that, you're right, bringing this to light now, this can be continued on. It's really cool. It's a cool point. And any advice for anybody? We might have 2 minutes left. If we get cut off, thank you to everyone who's joined.
Thank you guys.
But I mean, any advice for, say, women? I mean, All Girls Garage, I know people are saying they're missing you, but I know that you had to do it, you know, from that angle, and it's so difficult when that becomes your TV family, right? Like these are the people who become your TV family. But any advice for women?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people that like going into the automotive industry and going into the TV automotive industry are two very different things. I don't have experience like working at a dealership, working from an OE perspective, like, working in a shop. I have experience working in automotive on TV, and that is a totally different scene. So, like, just generally speaking to women that want to get in any sort of trades industry or want to get in trades and TV, like,
yeah.
I mean, I always just pass the message on to women of like, you can be anyone or anything that you want to be. Like, if you put your mind to it, you can literally do anything. And that doesn't have to be limited to automotive in any way.
Yeah. Well, cheers to that. Our girlfriend Heather DeBoe just popped on too, saying she's another one. Cheers. She's another trailblazer in the industry as well.
I love it.
Hi, Heather. Time.
I haven't seen you forever.
And thank you, everyone else, for joining. And everyone stay safe. But in the meantime, thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Good luck on the remodel. Bye, girl.
Thanks. Bye.